Welcome to yet another edition of the Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over UFC 276, Adesanya versus Cannonier. I mean, first things first, make sure you give this video a like. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you follow over on TikTok, over on Twitter, Instagram. We're taking over little by little. Last week didn't help. Last week was not the greatest card, but shit happens. There's nothing you can do. We ended up going 206 on picks. But I mean, that's the way the cookie crumbles. We're not going to run from it. We're not going to get discouraged. We're just going to get up on our high horse and go ahead and just go right back into action. We have one hell of an offering here. It's UFC 276. It is International Fight Week. They always put on phenomenal cards here. I wish the main event was a little more spectacular, but it's not a terrible fight. So at the end of the day, beggars can't be choosers, and they did give us one hell of a card. So, I mean, all in all, I'm not going to waste any of your time as always. I'm going to jump right into it here with the very first fight of the night. And we're going to start with Jessie Rose Clark at minus 140, going up against Julia Stoliarenko at plus 120. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 230. Under 2.5 plus 185. There's a lot of weird looks on this card. But let's go ahead and we'll start with Julia Stoliarenko. I don't know how she's still in the UFC, to be 100% honest with you. She's an Ultimate Fighter vet. She has yet to win in the UFC, whether it be on the show or here. I mean, her last MMA win coming in the year 2020, not the greatest there. All in all, you'll notice a big trend with her wins here. You'll see that she won a split decision, which is cool. Before that, she won by armbar. 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 Before that, just says win. But you know what? We know it was an armbar. Before that, she won by armbar. Interesting. So she has a total of 9 wins and a total of 8 arm bars. Something tells me she's a little bit of a specialist. She is Ronda Rousey in Carnage, only her striking's not terrible. It's pretty low volume, and she is very hittable. She's one of these people that don't believe in head movement. But she hits kind of hard, in all honesty. I remember her stand up being very bad, but it is getting better as she progresses. She will have a 2-inch reach advantage here. And in addition, you look at her and she was the one that fainted on the scales multiple times and they kind of pulled her from the fight. But she came back in her last fight and looked perfectly fine on the scales. 60% takedown defense. I think part of that is the fact that she will play on her back a little bit. I don't like that. I don't like when people are that comfy on their back that they'll give up valuable time down there. But apparently it's fine with her because she's just trying to armbar you anyway. And on the feet, she does hit very hard, pretty aggressive, but she does get hit, and you can back her up a little bit. So it's very interesting. I'm surprised that she's 0-4. I don't think she's good. I'm just surprised that she doesn't have a win here. On the flip side, we have Jessie Rose Clark, a former strawweight. Her striking's okay. She's an Australian striker who has turned into Jessie Rose Clark Monov. She just comes in and she just grapple fucks out of nowhere. That's just her bread and butter. Before, she used to strike a lot, and then for whatever reason, she moved up a weight class as she had issues making 115 and turned into a wrestler at 125. She wrestled against Jocelyn Edwards. Sarah Alpar, she just beat the shit out of. Stephanie Ager, she tried to wrestle, and it actually cost her a win, and she lost via armbar. Interesting. But all in all, she is kind of like very, very low IQ. I always said TJ Brown last week was one of her locks. I said he always does something stupid that annoys you and gets you nervous. She's the same way. She is kind of like a female TJ Brown, where you know she's going to do something very, very low fight IQ. She had weight cutting issues, but again, that was at 115. So it's kind of odd because you have someone that was having issues making 125, going against someone who had to move up weight that used to fight at 115. I think Julia Renko is going to be a little bigger, so have a reach advantage. I think Jessie Rose Clark has fought the better competition in Jessica I and Paige Van Zandt, Annie Kayadzide, Stephanie Eager, but She is a female apple pie shitter. And honestly, I cannot tell you the last time two women's MMA fights, both of the favorites hit, dude, these dogs are barking. So it kind of seems weird with the first fight of the night. We're taking our first shot, baby. It's plus money on Stolyarenko. We're gonna take her. We're gonna take her as our first dog of the night. And then the next fight of the night is another interesting one here. I don't know what to do with this. We have Jessica I going up against Macy Barber. Macy Barber is a minus 240 favorite. Jessica I at plus 200. I am not the biggest fan of that. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 290. Under 2.5 at plus 230. Let's start with Jessica Evil. You know what? No. You know what? No, we're not. Let's start with Macy Barber because Macy Barber is improving. I like Macy Barber. She's super young, getting better. I just don't like these odds for her. She moved over from Duke Rufus to Team Alpha Male. Team Alpha Male is not my favorite camp, but it is better than the Duke Rufus camp right now. That camp is struggling. She's been in the UFC forever, has gone through year-long surgery, things like that. She's still only 24 years old. Her striking's not terrible. It's pretty good. Her volume is just fine. She packs a punch, man. She has look at her record. I mean, the last two against good competition were decisions, but knocked out Jillian Robertson. JJ Aldridge is not that bad, so that win is definitely looking better. Hannah Cypher's knockout. Her first few wins are all just knockout, ground and pound, rear naked choke. She was a finisher here. All in all, she likes to pressure you, go forward, and just kind of bully you a little bit. And her wrestling seems to be improving. She took down Alexa Grasso, her last fight against Montana De La Rosa. All Montana wanted to do was wrestle. She did get taken down for a split second and she popped right back up, and I love that. So I just see improvements over and over with her. So obviously she also took this fight on short notice. They're trying to give her, I would say the UFC is trying to get her a rub, but she obviously feels very confident to take this on short notice against Jessica I. Reason being, Jessica I is kind of at the end of, she's kind of at the tail end of her career here. She's 35 years old, so she'll be 11 years older. Her striking's not bad. I thought she won her last fight against Jennifer Maia, to be 100% honest with you, but it is what it is. She's kind of hittable. She has 57% takedown defense. So if you want to take her down, Macy probably could, especially being at a wrestling heavy camp at Team Alpha Male. She's on a big losing streak here. She loses, she might get cut. But she also moves forward, and she looks a lot better when she's going forward. I looked at the JoJo Calderwood fight, and if you push her back, she does not fight well off her back foot. So if you have two people that need to go forward going at it, it's a matter of whose will is going to break. And honestly, I think Macy's a little stronger, a little more spry, a little faster. Jessica I is definitely a live dog. I do think there are avenues where she could teach the young kid a lesson. However, there's one major thing that, again, is yet to fail me in the UFC. The OnlyFans fade. And of course, Jessica I is on that train. And honestly, she was part of it when I started it, and she lost to Jennifer Maia. So I'm not going to jump off that bandwagon until it ends. So I will not bet the OnlyFans ladies. So the pick is going to be Barber. The bet is going to be Barber. I don't feel great about it, but I think she's the right side in this matchup. Speaking of not feeling good about it, we have Andre Muniz at minus 245, and the line is growing up against Uriah Hall at plus 205. Over 1.5 is what it's lined at. Over 1.5 plus 125. Under 1.5 minus 155. Let's start with Andre Muniz, because I think he is the best, worst fighter in the UFC. It's a weird statement, but I think this dude is a definition of overrated. I think he has top 3 jiu-jitsu in all of MMA. His jiu-jitsu is legit. He is the guy that snapped Rano. He snapped Jacare Souza's arm in half. He's the one that tapped out Eric Saunders, tapped out Bartos. Before that, rear naked chokes. You look at arm bars. You look at, he had a KO. Interesting. That's embarrassing. Guillotines, triangles, Darce chokes. He's not a one-trick pony like Julius Stoliarenko. He can tap you out anywhere. Arm triangle. He has a million different submissions on here. But all in all, the issue I have with Andre is he has okay wrestling. It's not the greatest. He was able to blast double Eric Anders, but I haven't seen a ton of that. He took down Antonio Arroyo 3 times. And at first, I would say that looks good on his behalf, but Arroyo is the guy that got taken down by Deron Wynn like 14 times. Like Antonio Arroyo has like 30% takedown defense. That's not difficult to do. So we really only saw him double Eric Anders in his last fight. That's about it. Otherwise, he doesn't have the greatest wrestling in the world. And if this thing is on the feet, I think Andre Muniz is god awful on the feet. I've never seen him strike. I don't know how to tell you how good he is on the feet because he does not even play around with it. He'll pull guard, he'll shoot a double, he'll scramble, he'll Uranagi roll, whatever he can to get you to the ground, he will. Because he has nothing there. He's very low volume. Even these fights where he took down Arroyo and he was on top of him the entire round, he landed 22 significant strikes. How do you get on top of someone for 15 straight minutes and only land 20 punches? That's not a good look at all. And his cardio was god awful there. A lot of his wins, you see first round. He had the Arroyo decision. First round, second round loss. Like, he does not have good cardio. His wrestling is not the greatest. And he has absolutely no striking, but he has world-class jiu-jitsu. On the flip side, we have Uriah Hall. And this one's a little concerning to me because Uriah Hall only has 65% takedown defense. He got taken down by Sean Strickland 4 times, so that's a little concerning. But he was hurt and rocked when he was taken down. But then again, you have ACJ. Took him down multiple times. He's not really known for his wrestling. So you have someone that doesn't have the greatest wrestling against someone that doesn't have the greatest wrestling. Like, which one is better? Hall's takedown defense or Muniz's offense? All in all, Uriah Hall's never been tapped out. He has 27 pro fights and has never been tapped out, but he's never fought anyone the caliber of Muniz on the ground. He's very, very powerful, but he's also kind of hittable in Uriah Hall because he doesn't throw a ton. He kind of freezes, he kind of blitzes in a little bit and then just stares at you for a while. And I'm not the biggest fan of that. If you bet Uriah Hall, it will drive you crazy because he's such a big, strong dude that's phenomenal on the feet, but he just doesn't throw. He just stares at you and waits and waits. He's one of the most patient fighters I've ever seen on the feet. But all it takes is one. Ask Gegard Mousasi. Just all of his wins are knocked out. He did not knock out Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman broke his leg. Knocked out Anderson Silva. He knocked out Yvonne Lewis. Knocked out Christos Jocko. And Christoph is pretty durable. Knocked out Gegard Mousasi. Knocked out and basically all of his wins are knockouts. And his cardio checks out. I've seen him go 5 rounds. He is 37 years old, but he will have a 2-inch reach advantage here. So you have someone that's the head and shoulders better striker against someone who's a head and shoulders better ground game practitioner. So we're going to look at last week's, Action Man versus Rodolfo Vieira all over again. And Vieira wasn't able to get the fight to the ground and the striker won. I always take the grappler over the striker, but the grappler has to be able to wrestle. I would always still lean that, but then I saw 2 things. One, I saw the odds at, plus 205 for Uriah Hall. And the other thing I noticed is that Andre Muniz is 22-4. That's a lot of fights, 26 fights. He only has 4 losses. When you look at his losses, 50-second knockout 1 minute into the second round. Like, all of his losses are by knockout. So if you touch this guy, he goes out. And Uriah Hall hits like a truck. So I don't want to stand on an island. I think I'm going back-to-back dogs. Again, I think Muniz wins. I think all it takes is 1 takedown, but the value of Hall at plus 205 going against someone that can't strike with no chin when you have that much power, I guess I'm betting the 37-year-old, but it will be very, very, very frustrating to watch. It's going to drive you absolutely crazy if you bet it too, but that is where the value is at. Speaking of old men, Brad Tavares back here at minus 110, going up against Dricus du Plessis at minus 110, straight pick 'em. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 140. Under 2.5 plus 110. Let's start with old man Brad. And it's weird because you feel like he's been in the UFC forever, which he has, but he's only 34 years old. That really shocked me. I thought he was a lot older. I mean, he made his UFC debut in Tough all the way 2010. He's been in the UFC for 12 years. Jesus, he's been here forever. He has really good striking. He just has absolutely no power. He knocks out nobody. I think he only has 2 knockouts in that 12-year period, and he's a striker, so that's concerning. I want to say he's durable, but when I look at his record, like he survived against Izzy, and Izzy's not exactly a potent power puncher. He can knock you out, but he didn't take him out. Robert Whitaker, he hits kind of hard. He took him out. Tim Bosch knocked him out. Yoel Romero, he survived. And then you look at Edmund Shabazian, knocked him out. It's like whenever he fights someone that's pretty decent, they have a tendency to put him out. And then when he fights the Christoph Jacos and the Tyler Lates and the Elias Theradoros of the world, he's able to survive and look good. So it's very suspect. I think if he hits, yeah, it seems as if he's hard to knock out, but when he faces power punchers, he has a tendency to go out. And that's all Driscus is. I actually think Driscus sucks. I don't think he's very good at all. But I do think he's one of the hardest hitters in the middleweight division. I mean, if you just look at the guy, he is just built to shit. I'm shocked that he's only 28 years old. He looks so much older. But yeah, he only has 2 losses. One was by knockout, one by guillotine. Interesting. But when you look at his wins, he's pretty decent on the ground. He's sneaky good on the ground. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage here. I think Brad is the better striker, but Driscus is very unorthodox and hits very, very, very hard. But a lot of just earlier busts. Look at his wins. Second round win, first round, second round, first round, second, third. Good for you. But he did get a finish. Second, first, third, first. He has 0 decision wins. This dude literally has 16 wins and 16 finishes. This dude, he is killer be killed. And honestly, when you look at it here, his 2 losses, he got finished in the 3rd round. His other loss, he got finished in the 3rd round. So does he have a cardio issue? We're not 100% certain, but we know that he went to the 3rd round 4 times in his career, and he's 2-2. So I think all that muscle mass, he has a little bit of a cardio issue. So is Brad really durable? I guess we're sure as hell going to find out. Just because it's really good volume, but you can back him up a little. He kind of does the Whitaker blitz, or he likes to counter a ton. He's very patient. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's really going to come down to power against technique. But God, that power is ridiculous. I really, really, really want to fade Driscus, but I always pull the trigger too early on people. So I will take him to win here. I don't feel good about it. It's a pick 'em. I liked him better as a dog, but the line got bet to a pick 'em. So whoever's a dog when this fight goes off is probably who I'll end up betting on. Because I think it's completely 50-50. I think the line should be a pick 'em. So the pick will be Driscus. The bet, I don't think I can bet this. I don't trust the over or the under either. I guess, God, it said at 2.5. Oh my God. I guess if I bet anything, it would be the under 2.5 since it's plus money and it is a Driscus du Plessis fight. All right, next fight of the night, we have more old men. We have Donald Cerrone at plus 180, Jesus, going up against Jim Miller at minus 210. I do not have the over-unders as this was added pretty late here. You know what? I do apologize. I have the wrong one here. It's actually Ian Gary and Gabe Green. My bad. They are not old. They are very, very young. We have Ian Gary at minus 155, Gabe Green plus 135. Over under also set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 130. Under 2.5 plus 100. Let's start with Ian Gary. Ian Gary is very, very young. He's 24 years old. He has really good striking. He does like to counter. That's his preferred method. He'll back up, dance in and out. He essentially thinks he's Conor McGregor. He, in all his heart of hearts, he is Conor McGregor. He's from Ireland. His volume checks out. His cardio, unlike Conor, does seem to check out. His power, like Conor, seems to check out. He's a judo black belt. No one talks about that. So his wrestling is not bad whatsoever. And we saw it a lot in the Darian Weeks fight. Darian tried to take him down the entire fight and was not able to do so. Jordan Williams, he did not look good. He got touched up a lot. He got touched up a whole bunch, was losing the first round and then knocked him out with 1 second left. Again, the aforementioned Darian Weeks fight, he just stuffed a whole bunch of takedowns. He struck when he could, but that wasn't really on him. I like Darian Weeks. I think Darian Weeks had the right approach, but it just resulted in a boring fight. Gary tried everything he could to make it interesting. So all the respect to both of those gentlemen there. It was just a boring fight based on styles. But all in all, he just does not stop moving. He has that bouncing style, the really wide stance that Conor uses. And he counters like a truck, just like Conor. He literally is early Conor, only he gets hit a whole hell of a lot more. This dude's hittable. He's just there to be hit. He keeps his hands real low. And when you're 24 years old, your chin seems to check out for now. But one of these times, he's going out. He is someone I'm going to try to fade in the future, just like Driscus. I just, again, don't know if this is the time because he's at Sanford. He's training with a lot of great people. On the flip side, we have Gabe Green, who cost me a whole bunch of money. I was all over Johannes, or I'm sorry, however you pronounce his name, Johan Lioness. And Johan cracked him. He literally was out for a split second, but woke up as his face planted against the mat. I swear he was out on his way down. But that's the thing with him. I think Gabe is really high volume. He has really good striking. It's just he's a little hittable. You can touch him up a lot. Johan touched him up before he gassed out. He just literally gassed out. Phil Rowe, he kind of touched him up a little bit. Daniel Rodriguez touched him up a little bit. And his takedown defense is atrocious. Like, if Gary really wanted to make this easy on himself, he would just take him down. Gabe is a black belt or purple. Is he? He's good on the ground. Let's put it that way. He is not a fish out of water on the ground. Just has zero wrestling. On the feet, very high volume, very good striker, just very hittable. So there's a lot of asterisks next to him. But the biggest thing is his chin, man. I don't care that people were calling him durable. Gabe Green is not durable, as aforementioned. Again, Johan dropped him. He was out, and he literally woke up from face planting on the mat. Phil Rowe rocked him. Daniel Rodriguez rocked him. His fights earlier, he got knocked out in 36 seconds by Jalen Turner. Jalen Turner's on this card. Jalen Turner's great, but 36 seconds, bro. Earlier before that, knocked out in the first round. Like, these aren't like wear and tear things. When you get dropped that many times in the first, that's sketchy. I think he's one of these guys that he actually has been put out, but you run into these guys that keep getting clipped and keep getting rocked and rocked and rocked, and eventually they start to just go out. Gabe Green loves wars, and he's only 28, so I don't want to say they're catching up to him, but I do feel that he's chinny and he's really susceptible to getting countered. So the UFC, I think, is setting him up for failure, giving him someone that is one of the best counter strikers in the division. I mean, that's high praise for Ian Gary. I did not say he was one of the best strikers. I think he's a very good counter striker. So if Gabe's going to go forward, try to pressure him with heavy volume, that's exactly how you touch Gary. You touch him, and then he knocks you out. So the pick is going to be Ian Gary. The pick, honestly, at minus 155 isn't bad. I might look at the knockout prop and see if you can juice it up anymore. But I will pick Ian Gary to win this fight. All right, next fight of the night then is the old men here. I think I'm just eager to get to it with Donald Cerrone plus 180, Jim Miller minus 210. Let's start with Cowboy, just for old shits and giggles. Here we go with Cowboy. Is 39 years old. Jesus. He will have a 2-inch reach advantage here, and the elephant in the room is the losing streak. He's lost 4 in a row, but when you look at who he lost to, I mean, Anthony Pettis is the GOAT, so no shame. But no, he lost to Alex Morono. It's not terrible. Anthony Pettis at that point was not washed. Conor McGregor, it's Conor McGregor, not washed at that point. Justin Gaethje just fought for a world title. Tony Ferguson, former interim champ. So yes, he's on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fight losing streak. But he lost to a former champ, 2 interim champs. Sorry, he lost to 2 former champs, 2 interim champs, and an up and comer. He's not fighting slouches. He's not just going out there and getting starched by the Gabe Greens of the world. Like, he's literally fighting legit competition at an old age. So, I mean, all the power to him. He has good striking. He has great jujitsu. He has sneaky wrestling. Like, the dude is the complete package. He's just 39. He's a little bit hittable, and he's 39. I mean, it sucks. It's kind of like watching your heroes go down. But now you have your hero going against your hero again. Yeah, he's 39 years old, but he's fighting someone who he whooped his ass. When they fought back in 2013, 2014, he didn't beat Jim Miller. He beat the shit out of Jim Miller. Jim Miller here is not exactly a spring chicken either. He's 38. So they were like, well, let's do old man. If they can't do Joe Lozon, we'll just give him Jim Miller. Jim Miller is decent striking. It's improved in his later years, which is weird. He has really good jujitsu, very, very, very good jujitsu, and okay wrestling. It's not the greatest. It seems like it's slowing down a little as he's getting older, and his cardio starting to get a little worse too. He's pretty much first rounder bust. All of his wins. I mean, just look at his record. Nicholas Mata early in the second round. Eric Gonzalez early in the second round. Roosevelt Roberts early in the first round, Clay Guida early in the first round, Jason Gonzalez early in the first round, Alex White early in the first round. His last decision win was 6 years ago. And you look at his losses, Dustin Poirier, it was a decision, and it was an L because it went all 3 rounds. Anthony Pettis went the whole 3 rounds, loss. Francisco Trinaldo went all 3 rounds, loss. Dan Hooker, he got knocked out. That knee was vicious. Charles Oliveira choked him out. Shit happened. Scott Holzman was a loss, all 3 rounds. Vince Pichel lost all 3 rounds. Joe Selecki lost all 3 rounds. If you take this guy into deep waters, he's 38 years old. He will fade. Problem is, the man dragging him into deep waters is 39 years old. So the last matchup with Cowboy, you had Joe, who has all of his first round finishes, going up against Cowboy, who is trying to just survive and take over late. This is the same exact thing. Only I think Jim has like 7 minutes of cardio compared to Joe, who only has 5. Also, Jim is a little better on the feet, I feel like. I think this is a tougher matchup for Cowboy, which is unfortunate because if he loses, that's it. But I think Cowboy is a confidence fighter. Cowboy loses all the time when the pressure is on. The pressure's on here, don't get me wrong. But I think he'll have a little level of confidence knowing he didn't just beat Jim Miller, he beat Jim Miller's ass. And I think he can put that in his head knowing, and that might be part of the reason Cowboy took this fight on short notice, not Jim, Cowboy. And the biggest part here is that Jim Miller is not the biggest 155 pounder in the world. This fight's at 170. Cowboy made 155 twice. He doesn't think his body can do it again. They're fighting at 170, where Cowboy has been for years now. Jim Miller, I have not seen at 170. So Cowboy is going to have a lot of training camps under his belt. He is going to have the size edge and the mental edge, knowing he already whooped his ass before. I think the odds are off. I can't say Cowboy should be favorited, but plus 180, that's sheer value. So the pick is going to be Cowboy for the hell of it. And the bet, I will have a bet on Cowboy. It may be the last time you get a chance to do so. And these odds are off. So I'm going to try to take advantage of it. Let's see if he can extend his career. All right. Then the next fight of the night is probably going to be fight of the night, in my opinion. It's the one I'm looking forward to most on the card. And it is the prelim headliner. Go figure. We have Brad Riddell at plus 110 going up against Jalen Turner at minus 130. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 100. Under 2.5 minus 130. Let's start with Jalen the Tarantula Turner. First of all, I love the nickname Tarantula because he said Anderson Silva the Spider was his hero. I think it's so clever. Secondly, Jalen will have a 4-inch reach advantage here. God, Jalen has pretty high volume, sneaky good jiu-jitsu. He looks like a child here. That is not what he looks like now. He's good striking. He's still super young. He's only 27 years old. You can back him up a little, but at the end of the day, he's fine with that because his limbs are so long. He'll just back up and continually throw like Muay Thai knees and elbows and such. The problems with Jalen Turner, his wrestling is, I mean, Matt Frivola took him down a lot. Again, he looks like he got a lot stronger. He was just this really skinny kid before. Now he's kind of maturing into his man body, and you can see it. I don't know how much longer he's going to be able to make 155. The dude's 6'3". I don't see him making 155 much longer. Maybe another 2 fights maximum. But as long as say he makes it here and he looks fine. My issues are 2 things. One, the cardio with all that body mass. I don't know how his cardio is. He seemed to slow down a little bit in his last fight against Jamie Malarkey before he got the finish, and that only went into the second round. Brock Weaver, he looked okay, but it did look like he slowed a little bit. Again, his last few wins aren't bad. Brock Weaver, not the greatest, but Euros Medic just looked great against Omar Morales. Jamie Malarkey was on a tear prior to that fight. Josh Kulabau just got a big win over Sungwoo Choi. Like, the guys he's beating are on win streak. So, I mean, he's doing his thing here. Losses to Vicente Luque, what do you expect? Taking it on short notice up a weight class. But my concern is his cardio, because of his big body frame, and his chin. He is a little chinny. You can rock this dude. He's been knocked out, three out of his 5 losses, he's been knocked out. So that's not the greatest look. And I think part of that's the weight cut. He's training himself to make 155, and it makes you a little susceptible. On the flip side, you have Brad Riddell, who I have been backing. He's been winning me a crap ton of money because he seems to always be the dog. But in retrospect, this is kind of a weird fight here. He has really good striking. He's a striking coach, former striking coach at Tiger Muay Thai. I believe he's a current striking coach at City Kickboxing in Australia, which is like Izzy's gym. He has really good cardio. He'll go for days. 60% takedown defense. He's not hard to take down. His jiu-jitsu isn't exactly the greatest either. But he's not bad wrestling offensively. He will mix in takedowns. He averages about 2 a fight. So it's odd. You can take him down at will, but he also takes you down at will. It's very peculiar. Let's not get it twisted. His striking is his bread and butter. My concern with him is that he is one of the most exciting fighters in the lightweight division. And part of that is his style, and his style is going to cause a firefight, and it concerns me. Because I mean, this dude is Mr. Fight of the Night, but he goes to war. I mean, Magomed Mustayev was a war. Alex De Silva was a war. Drew Dober was a war. And when you look at him, he's never been knocked out until his last fight against Rafael Fiziev. That's the issue. If you go to war every single fight, like 3 times a year, your durability starts to drain and dwindle. And this dude has gone to war for 4 straight fights here in the last 2 years. This has all the makings to be another war. So you have 2 guys that are a little chinny right now. One because of their activity, and one because of just draining themselves to make the weight. I was staring at the under 2.5. The under 2.5 isn't plus money. It's minus 130. So I don't know. Brad Riddell is not the heaviest fisted person in the world. He doesn't knock out a lot of people. So he actually has 0 knockouts in the UFC. The pick is going to be Jalen Turner. I don't know what the bet is. God, I don't want to bet this fight. It's the best fight of the night. I just want to sit back and relax and enjoy it. But if I have to put money on it, I would say I'd probably just ride with Brad because he has the plus sign next to his name. But I think Jalen wins, and I want Jalen to win. But I fuck with Brad too. So I'm just here for a good time. But if I have to bet it, you just take the plus money there with Brad. Then the next fight of the night is one that I'm really excited for, actually. We have Robbie Lawler at minus 125 going up against Brian Barberino at plus 105. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 190. Under 2.5 plus 155. And I did it again. They switched this bout order on me and they are messing me up left and right. Let's just go ahead and talk about Robbie, even though it's not the next fight. And we're going to talk about Robbie because I think this guy is a stone cold lock here. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. He has really good striking. He is hittable. He's not hard to hit whatsoever, but he's the former champion. He has good cardio. He's really durable. He has not been knocked out since Tyron Woodley. And that was, God, how long ago? 2016. So he's been in wars and not knocked out in 6 years. The way you beat Robbie Lawler is you wrestle him. Neil Magny wrestle fucked him. Colby Covington wrestle fucked him. Ben Askren attempted to wrestle fuck him. Rafael Dos Anjos wrestle fucked him. Tyron Woodley knocked him the fuck out. But before that, Johnny Hendricks wrestled him. Like, that's how you beat. That's how you beat this man. Yeah. Brian Barberina is not going to wrestle. He can't. He physically cannot wrestle Robbie Lawler. Brian Barberina has good striking, but he himself has 55% takedown defense. His volume's pretty high, which is nice, but you can back him up, and he will slow down as the fight goes. He's notoriously pretty durable, but in retrospect, even if Robbie doesn't knock him out, Robbie's gonna piece him up because Robbie has really good cardio, even at the old age of like 39 or 38, whatever Robbie is. Barberina is only 33, but he was falling over, hands on his knees against 41-year-old Matt Brown. So right now, Brian Barberina is on an old man tour with Matt Brown and Robbie Lawler. He took one out by split decision, and I don't think he won that fight. And now he's taking on one that's even better. God bless him. It's not going to go well. So the pick is going to be Robbie. The bet is going to end up being Robbie Lawler as well. Then we're going to go backwards here and go to the first fight on the main card. We have Pedro Munoz at plus 220 against Sean O'Malley at minus 260. Over 2.5 minus 120. Under 2.5 minus 110. Almost a straight pick 'em. Let's start with Sugar Sean. 15-1, or if you ask him, 16-0 or 15-0. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage. That is huge. That's one of the biggest ones I've ever seen. He's going to have really, really, really good striking. He has sneaky good jiu-jitsu, man. I think he's only a purple belt, but he has those long, lanky arms to where he can slap on chokes and such. He has really high volume. He has seemingly good cardio. He slowed down a touch in the Chris Montino fight, but he wasn't gassed by any means. And he's fast, man. He's very, very, very fast. He hasn't fought the best competition. He's kind of the originator of picking and choosing your fights. And he's doing a phenomenal job at it. I mean, excuse me, his sole loss come to Marlon Vera after his leg rolled out. I mean, I understand it. And I understand him saying he's undefeated. He's not undefeated, don't get me wrong. But he was winning that fight prior to the leg injury. Everyone talks about kicking the legs, kick the leg, kick the legs, and he's talking about how it annoys him. I mean, he does have skinny ass legs. So we'll see. It's not the first time he had a leg injury in the octagon. He somehow still won with a leg injury prior to. But in retrospect, I just don't know, man. I think he's good, but the hype is getting a little ridiculous. He's picking and choosing his fights, and he's sneaking into that top 5 to where they're all killers and they'll all probably kill him. But Pedro Munoz may not be that dude. I think Pedro's very, very good, but he's also 35 years old and starting to slow. That's the thing I see the most, is that he's slow. Dom Cruz was faster than him, and Dom Cruz is like 39 years old, 38. Jose Aldo is quicker. He's pretty old. Jimmy Rivera, he got a win. That's good. Frankie Edgar, he was able to keep up with him. I thought Pedro won and got screwed, but I had money on Frankie that night, so I'm not going to say shit. Aljo, current champ, but was just 10 times faster than him. Pedro has good striking and hard as hell leg kick, so he will try to chop down Sean's leg. So let's see if Sean's leg can actually take it. High volume, just like Sean, and really good cardio. He can go all 3 rounds as well, and great jiu-jitsu. He's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. You just don't see it much because he doesn't shoot takedowns. So will he shoot takedowns here against Sean? I think Sean would be fine on the ground. I don't think he's going to catch him with anything, but I think he'll be able to stay safe. On the feet, I like Pedro a lot, but 7-inch reach advantage is a lot. That's a lot. And especially because Sean knows how to use it. And if he has 7 inches and he's faster, I have to give it to Sean. I think I want to fade Sean his next fight, but he chose Pedro for a reason. So the pick is going to be Sean. The bet's going to be Sean. Speaking of Sean's, we have Sean Strickland going up at minus 105 against Alex Pereira at minus 115. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 150. Under 1.5 plus 145. Let's start with this motherfucker, Sean Strickland, because I can't stand this dude. He's a great fighter. Don't get me wrong. I can't stand him as a person, but when it comes to his fighting, he's a good striker. He has sneaky good jiu-jitsu. He is a black belt, even though he never uses it. Very, very, very high volume. He's a former welterweight, so he does seem a little smaller at times at middleweight. And not he does have some power, but it's more of wearing you down, not just going out there and rocking you. Kind of like an Izzy, man. Izzy has sneaky power, but it just doesn't get on display all the time. And he'll mix in some wrestling. I didn't realize how much Sean Strickland wrestled. He will mix it in. He's not the best wrestler in the world, but he strikes for a very prolonged period of time, and then he'll just throw it in there randomly, steal around things of that magnitude. So that's kind of nice to see. Again, he's a piece of shit as a person. He hurts his training partners. He makes some crazy remarks. He goes after people on Twitter and has all of these homophobic and racist remarks and things like that. But at the end of the day, we're betting on fighters, not the person. And whether I like him or not, he's a damn good fighter. On the flip side, you have Alex Pereira, who is only in the UFC because he knocked out the current champ in Israel Adesanya. He's gonna have a 4-inch reach advantage here. That's pretty big. He has really, really, really great striking. And I talked about Driscus power. Man, does this guy hit hard. He has kind of high volume as well, shockingly. Not a big sample size in the UFC, but high for now. Again, former Glory kickboxing champ. He has seemingly as good cardio. We saw it against Bruno Silva in his last fight. Jiu-jitsu seems totally irrelevant. He does train with Glover Teixeira. So he is drilling his wrestling, drilling his jiu-jitsu defense. He is drilling that stuff. But again, he's 34 years old. He only has 7 pro fights. 6 pro fights? How much is he really going to learn that quickly? He needs to learn nothing on the feet. He's very, very, very good on the feet. Yes, he only has 6 career fights in MMA. When it comes to his kickboxing record, he has a ton of experience on the feet. So it's one of these deceiving things where you see they only have 6 pro fights, but that's an MMA. He's been kickboxing for 20, 30 years. So all in all, Sean Strickland prefers to strike, but Chris Curtis is his main training partner, the action man. I did mention Sean by sub. So it seems to me as if cat's out the bag that Sean, who does mix in wrestling sometimes, will probably try to wrestle Pereira, considering that's the easiest route to victory. So the pick is going to be Pereira, but the bet, if Sean is going to be any resemblance of plus money, I will take Sean. You know what? I'll probably pick Sean too. I'll pick Sean to win, and I'll bet Sean if I see any plus sign next to his name. Unfortunately, I don't want to do it now when it's like almost a pick 'em because I don't like the guy and I don't want to bet. I don't want to root for him. But money talks. I'll root for him if he has a plus sign and he can win me money. Also, I like that the submission prop is 12-1. Again, black belt against someone with 6 fights. That's a pretty good prop there. I will have a poke on that no matter what with this thing at 12-1. That makes absolutely no sense. All right, then the next fight, we have the 2 title fights. We have Alexander Volkanovski at minus 190 going up against Max Holloway at plus 160. Over 4.5. Set at minus 255, under 4.5 plus 205. Let's start with Max Holloway. I do have a bet on Max Holloway, not because I think he's going to win, because I think he is the second best in the division, and you're giving me plus 160 on the former champ. When you talk about featherweight goats, you talk about Jose Aldo, you talk about Max Holloway, and you talk about Alexander Volkanovski. So someone that's in the GOAT conversation, someone that's fought Alex twice, someone that's gone 50 minutes with Alex, 10 rounds in the octagon, someone who has only he has 3 losses in, since 2013. My God. And 2 of them are to Alex, and they're very, very controversial. I don't know, man. When one of them was to Dustin when he moved up a weight class. I mean, just honestly, just look at his record. He lost to Dustin Poirier. That was his first career loss. He was a former champ. He lost to Dennis Bermudez in a split decision. He was very, very young. He lost to Conor McGregor when he was like 21, who was also a former champ. Then he lost to Dustin Poirier again in a championship fight, up a weight class. Then he lost to Alexander Volkanovski, and I think he lost that first fight. I think he slept on him, and he straight lost. Then they gave an immediate rematch, and he lost a split decision where I thought he won. So in my mind, it's 1-1, and that's why the UFC has given us a third fight. What really is happening is that they both keep clearing out the division. They have to fight each other because they're whooping everyone else's ass. They're the only ones that can compete with one another. Max has great volume. 84% takedown defense, probably the best striking in the division, is super durable, has never really been finished. Has he? I think he got choked out once by Dustin Poirier. His very, very first loss was a armbar. But that's it. Again, he was like 19 years old at the time, and we're talking 2012. His jiu-jitsu's okay, and his cardio is phenomenal, and he's durable as hell. So all in all, there's no negatives with Max Holloway, except for the fact that Alexander Volkanovski keeps winning these fights. And I think Alexander Volk has leveled up in fighting Max Holloway. Volk, even though he's a smaller man, he does have a 2-inch reach advantage here. He has great cardio. He has high volume himself. He is good striking himself. He has better wrestling than Max. He will mix it in, and he did in his last fight. My thing with Volk is that he's shockingly chinny, and no one talks about it. You don't hit this guy a lot. He's not very hittable, but Max dropped him 3 or 4 times in that fight. The last fight where Max lost, he dropped him at least 3 times, like a lot. And I was watching his fight too in fight tape, and Chad Mendez dropped him. Brian Ortega dropped him. He gets dropped a lot. He doesn't go out, to his credit, but we talked earlier about these guys that keep getting into wars and their durability goes away. Now, the thing he has going for him is that he's 33, he's in the prime of his career, and Max Holloway is not a power puncher. Again, Max dropped him multiple times, but he is not a power puncher. Someone else that hit harder, Alex would have went out. But he's fighting Max again. So I think this is very, very close. The last one was a split decision. I think the split went the wrong way. One of them is plus money. I do think Volkanovski has gotten better since their last fight. I think Max might still be the same. So I am going to pick Alex to win, but I can't not bet Max Holloway at plus 160. We will never see that against anyone else. So the pick is going to be Alex, but I will just have a flyer on Max just because of the value and nothing more. And then that takes us to the main event of the evening. Again, if you've enjoyed thus far, make sure you hit that subscribe, hit the like, follow over on Twitter, Instagram, over on TikTok. Let's blow this up. Just like Israel Adesanya is about to blow up Jaron Cannonier's title hopes. We have Israel at minus 365 going up against Jared at plus 300. Over 4.5 is set at minus 125. Under 4.5 at minus 105. Let's start with the champ. Give the champ his respect. 3-inch reach advantage for Israel Adesanya. Very, very durable. Again, has never been knocked out in MMA. He has been knocked out in kickboxing by the before mentioned Alex Pereira. He has great cardio. He can fight for whatever it seems like. He has pretty good wrestling defense. And his jiu-jitsu, he's been working on, and you see it. Marvin Vettori had his back, wasn't able to finish the job. Jan was on top of him for rounds, wasn't able to finish the job. Robert Whitaker took him down, wasn't able to finish the job. He was throwing his like blue belt or purple belt, whatever he is right now, at Paulo Costa when they were fighting. Or was it a white belt? I don't even know. It doesn't matter. Either way, he talks about his jiu-jitsu, and it is something he's working on, which is super, super nice. But we know that he's a striker through and through. He is shockingly older than you would think. He's 32, but again, that's kind of like the prime here. When you hit that like 28 to 34 marker, it seems to be the best you ever are. He's 32, so he's in his prime. Never lost at middleweight in MMA. I really have no negatives to say about Israel, besides the fact that, you never know what version you're going to get. Sometimes he's in a snooze fest. Other times he knocks you out. There's no in between. Jared, on the flip side, is the guy that can't figure out his weight class. He has fought at heavyweight in the UFC, has knockouts. He got a loss, and he dropped down to light heavyweight, got some knockouts. took a loss, dropped down to middleweight. This man has got some wins, got some knockouts. This man has knockouts in 3 different weight classes in the UFC. This dude's insane. If he loses and drops to welterweight, I swear to God. But all in all, he has good striking. He has good power. He's pretty durable. He's been knocked out before, but again, that was up at heavyweight. And light heavyweight. Took him out too. Good cardio. Great strength of schedule. I mean, Jan, Dom, Reyes, Glover, the champ, Sean Jordan was a thing back in time. Robert Whitaker, former champ. Um, that's all he lost to. Wow. So he lost to a heavyweight that was very good and then just disappeared. He lost to the former champ, former title challenger, former champ. So he only loses to the best. The only issue with him is that you can touch him up a little bit. And he's fighting the best in his weight class right now. So I don't really have much to say about this fight besides that it's probably going to be boring when Izzy runs into these really, really strong power punchers. He doesn't want to go out. He plays it safe. He plays it smart, kind of picks away at him. It's a little bit boring at times. I'm entertained by it, but I'm not going to tell a casual, oh my God, you have to watch this title fight. It's going to be fireworks. It's not. I think it's going to be a technical fight. It's going to be one-sided, and it's going to be Izzy just pawing at him with a jab and then staring at him for a little bit. So the pick is going to be Izzy by decision. I think this thing does go the distance. So the pick is going to be Izzy, but the bet is probably just the over 4.5 because that's a lot better value than minus 125. Then minus 365 for Izzy. And that is UFC 276. I'm sorry, I forgot the number that quickly. That is UFC Adesanya versus Cannonier. Play it safe. Yeah, it was 276. Again, make sure you give the video a like. Again, we struggled last week, but that means we turn it around, baby. We don't go back to back. We're picking up and we're gonna fucking kill it. So let's get it.